Hi, I'm Shelly Corbett. I'm here in Seattle, Washington, and I'm at my favorite park. And I'm going to take you on an adventure that combines toy photography with Lensbaby's new lens Obscura. Here I have the Obscura mounted on my trusty Sony, and it's this lovely little narrow profile pancake lens. It has three settings: f22, f45, and f90. And for me personally, I tend to think about it not so much in terms of f-stop, but in terms of effect. So if I don't want any effect, I'll use f90. If I want full effect, I'll move to f22. And if I'm looking for something in between, I'll move to f45. And then I'll generally take all three of, I'll use all three of these for any particular scene, and then I won't pass judgment on which one works best until I get home. I titled this video Falling in Love, Out of Love, and Back in Love with the Obscura because that's pretty much been the process. My expectations were very high for this lens. I thought, oh, super cool, love me a pinhole, but then when I got it and I tried it, it didn't meet those expectations and I fell out of love. And I honestly got very frustrated with the lens, and I didn't think I was going to be able to complete the assignment. But then, because I'm a tenacious individual, I don't give up easily, I had to rethink my whole process. And part of that was changing my subject a little bit, staying within my creative boundaries, finding new solutions, like finally overcoming my reticence for both post-production and getting a small travel tripod that really supports and will work with the toys that I want and the situations that I find myself in. So I think that's really the creative process, is a roller coaster, is overcoming your initial expectations, meeting the lens where it's at, not where we think it needs to be, and then finding out where you go on that creative journey, because more than likely it's not going to be where you think you want to go, but it's definitely going to be an interesting place. So once I got the lens and I saw it, I thought it was super cool, super flat, great for travel. But when I put it on my camera and took some photos with toys, specifically with Lego, I saw all sorts of problems in the photos. Since it's a 16 millimeter, it photographed absolutely everything that houses, fences, and it was my results were not really good. And I'm used to shooting macro where you can sort of fudge the scale and play with sense of reality, and now I'm like in super hyper reality, and it was obvious where the toys are and there was no scale fudging, and it was I wasn't happy. And then the reflections, it was I was pretty discouraged and definitely had a crisis of confidence with this lens, and I'm like, I can't do anything with this isn't going to work, truly. But I'm not the kind of person to let that get me down. So I picked myself back up and thought, what can I do? What will work with this lens? So then, instead of thinking about what I thought the lens was, I started thinking about what the lens really was. With the new lens, it's really about figuring out, it's like a Rubik's Cube, is what is the solution? So one of the things I'm thinking about is changing the scale and moving away from a 4 centimeter tall Lego and moving with something a little bit bigger that would take up more of the space. That 16 millimeter is just so wide. I mean, it's beautiful. It's an absolutely beautiful lens, but not something I would choose normally with toys. So it's a conundrum. So I thought one solution might be pulling out my dragons. I have a lovely dragon collection, one of my favorite parts of my collection. And this looks like a mighty fine spot. And so I'm thinking about silhouettes. I'm thinking about lines. I'm thinking about getting this stick out of the way. Luckily it was a dead one. It's been really forced me to go back to the basics about what makes a good photo, what makes a compelling photo. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about right now, is how can I capture that? one thing about this lens is like, you really, really, really have to get close. When I've looked at the final image from this dragon pose, it made me very happy because it showed me what the potential for this lens could be. So it was the first glimmer of hope to me that yes, I could actually take a good photo of a toy with this lens. So that would make me very happy, and there was a real sense of relief. Also, I love its mystic nature and its atmospheric quality. And so if I can bring, and that's really missing in my photos in general, so that sort of darkness. So if it can open new doors of inquiry for me, that's really actually a real plus. It's just going to take me a while to figure out how to do that again. But that's the creative process, is banging your head against the wall. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you can repeat it, sometimes you can't. But it's a process, it's a journey. So even though those first images that I took at the house were super discouraging and made me show all the, I don't know, the creative process, my original ideas just weren't going to work. Now with this dragon photo under my belt, I feel like, oh, okay, there's hope. There's hope in all of this. The creative process is a freaking roller coaster sometimes. So now we're on the hunt for a new location. Let's bring out those Muppets. Let's see what they can do. And seeing if changing scale is going to be the answer. I love the lines here. I love those little trees. Wonder if we can do something with some framing. And the color. The light's not bad. And so I said I brought some new toys. We got some Kermit, because everybody loves Kermit. Got a little Fozzie the Bear action, and Mad Harry, because he's awesome. Of course, my favorite is Gonzo. He'll have to make an appearance here soon. But let's start with Crazy Harry, because he's just crazy, man, and he's in love with the flowers. Just like me. Crazy about this lens. And one thing I've had to get used to with this lens is literally being right on top of the figure. And that's too long of a shutter speed. Messing around with my ISO. At 45, I'm in the middle. See what happens. I can do handheld at a 30th. What's the focus like? All these things, and then when you look at it, you're like, man, that glow, it's just kind of crazy. How much of that is gonna... This is the thing that's so hard with this lens is anybody gonna be able to recognize the toy when it's that obscured by the glow? Okay. So one of the things that I've realized with this lens is, while it's beautiful and it has a really super unique look, is that maybe if you're not familiar with a toy or a character, it's not going to read. So I've been really kind of playing with what figures have enough of are recognizable enough that people are going to get it, even though not all the information might be there. So that's kind of where I'm at, is thinking about what toys, what stories do I want to tell, what stories do people want to see even, and then how can I meet them in the middle by using this lens and showing off these toys in a new and unique way. So that's kind of where I'm at. A lot of trial and error, and that's where I'm at, is what... And it's just super fun to get this close to a toy. I mean, seriously, you're like right, I'm literally inches away, maybe 3 inches at the most, and having it fill the frame. So that's it's a whole nother way of looking at these guys. It's just been really a nice change of pace. The Obscura has been super fun for me just because I get to it's really literally forced me into a new area out of my comfort zone, which is good because I've been a little bit too comfortable for a little bit too long, and moving into some new creative avenues and making me look at new toys. And now that I've been playing with the Obscura for a few weeks now, I'm starting to sort of get the hang of it. I feel like there's possibilities going on, some really fun things ahead. I'm not there yet, definitely not there yet, but I'm making some progress, and I feel really good about making progress. It's that creative roller coaster. It just never stops. Okay, well, it wouldn't be me if I wasn't around water. So I had to search high. Normally I don't shoot over here, photograph, because the water tends to be really deep and it's a high traffic area, and I'm a little shy when it comes to photographing toys. I know that's probably don't believe me, but I am. So we're here, and we got some water and we got a boat, so let's see. The question is can we take a photo that looks like a Shelly toy photo with an Obscura lens? And this is the real test. Oh man, that reflection is beautiful. So one thing that I have learned is not to judge photos too quickly, and part of that process is literally just letting them sit and not look at them. Put some time between me and the actual experience of taking the photo, and by doing that I can allow, I don't know, maybe some sort of weird magic happens, but oftentimes the image is better than I anticipate if I let it sit for a while. So I like to call it like breathing, kind of like a fine wine. I'm really learning to love the Obscura lens. It is not your run-of-the-mill lens, and part of the joy of it is the experimentation and really pushing yourself and seeing what this lens can do and how it can help you realize your own vision. And you may not get it the first time, but you keep trying. You never know what you're going to get. So like I mentioned before, this is one of my favorite spots in the park, but I've never been able to capture the beauty of this particular location and just the serenity of this little pond being back here. And this wide angle lens of 16 millimeters, probably the closest I've been able to get to that vision I have of this pond. And I think that Kermit probably the best figure for this location. My experience with the Obscura and my creative process, the high, the low, and then sort of the midpoint, can be described as irrational exuberance, followed by dark night of the soul, followed by, not bad, I'm kind of happy where I got. That roller coaster ride can be applied to any lens, to any creative process, to pretty much any artistic endeavor that you embark upon. So I hope you will take some solace in my pain and knowing that I too have been there, and it's part of the creativity, and you just have to work through it. Well, thanks so much for coming on this crazy journey with me. I tell you, the Obscura definitely threw me for a loop, but I persevered, and now I invite you to join me on this journey with the Obscura. And if you do decide to give this lens a try, take some toy photos, tag me on Instagram, Facebook, come find me online, show me your photos, I'd love to see them. If you're interested in taking a creativity workshop, I offer them a couple times a year. Would love to work with you, and we can just go through this crazy process together. And actually, all this doubt made me realize that this is what I put all of my workshop attendees through, is I make them think about their process, and that's what this lens has done, is made me think deeply about my process and why I do what I do and what kind of stories I want to tell. It's so easy to look at our photos and say, whatever it is that we took, and go, oh, we failed. And at this point, I don't even know what fail means. It seems like it's such a subjective term, whether I succeed or fail. It's all just a process. It's part of the journey of learning, going from here to there, and enjoying the process of beginning on a journey. And I don't even know if there is an end to a journey. It's just one step after another on this path.